Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Josh Scorcher with Top 10 Silent Protagonists. Yep, these are the protagonists that basically let their actions do the talking. Yep, you don't hear a single peep out of them. Mario, technically silent, but, just let's go. Guess that don't count, so we'll go Link. There are a lot of them, so Morgan, Henry, Mr. Freeman, so we'll see. So let's just check out these 10 silent protagonists. See who does the best. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Here we go.
What makes a good protagonist? Someone you can follow and cheer on as they accomplish their journey. Video games give us the opportunity to play as these characters, allowing us to share the experience. That's where silent protagonists come in. Just because they don't speak a word doesn't mean they can't have an impact in whatever world they're in, and in more ways than just player action. Now, silent doesn't mean they aren't talking at all. It means they don't converse too often and tend to have others talk for them or interpret their gestures. We'll be looking at how much personality they express despite not talking much. How much do their actions define their character? Is the story better because they don't talk? There will be fewer points for creative characters because those are made to be player inserts to begin with, as well as characters who have full vocal lines outside of dialogue options. Jack would have made the list if he didn't vow to kill Praxis.
Sorry, Jax. Just gonna keep him quiet. Sorry, Jax. Buddy. Come on. Here we go. Let's begin.
Pokemon is arguably the first franchise you think of when it comes to silent protagonists. Playing as a 10-year-old, leaving home to go on an adventure with your partners at your side to become the very best that ever was. You go on to get 8 badges, defeat an evil team bent on doing who knows what, and become the champion of the region. Pretty strong stuff. It does feel a bit samey after a while, though. Where's the pizzazz, the intrigue, the ability to steal the trainer's Pokemon?
Oh.
Wait, what was that last one? Now we're talking. Meet Wes, the main character of Pokemon Coliseum, which needs a remaster, Nintendo. He was a former member of Team Snag'em, a group of Pokemon thieves where he defected, stole their portable snag machine, and blew up their base to alert the police to it. Exactly why he did this was unknown, but after meeting the girl Rui, the two worked together to find Shadow Pokemon and free them from corruption. The two go all around the Ore region, fighting against Team Snag'em and Cypher, capturing Shadow Pokemon from trainers and freeing their hearts. Like most Pokemon protags, Wes doesn't talk, but he has Rui to speak and react for him. Thanks to this, we can see his actions play out in real time, though I will admit it is pretty basic. It wasn't until recently that Pokemon protags were a bit more expressive. Usually they just stand there and smile while things go on around them. Though a lot of them do have personalities in spin-off games like Pokemon Masters, they also aren't silent there either. Wes is admittedly a victim of that, but what he does is so interesting and different from other Pokemon protags, it allows him to stand out. But man, with Pokemon starting, you know we got some really quiet superstars up ahead.
I was wondering if they never really came back. All the others did, but not Wes. Cool to
In
see
addition
him again.
to Nintendo, you're going to see a few RPG characters here as well.
Dragon Quest.
Sometimes both. Not because a couple of my crew are huge JRPG fans. That
we
wasn't
all.
apparent. But also because RPGs do a really good job of giving us characters who hit that balance I mentioned earlier. So let's take a look at Chrono Trigger. For its short runtime, you'll learn quite a bit about the protagonist. We know he's a heavy sleeper from his mom having to wake him up when fireworks don't. We know he cares deeply about his friends when he travels back in time using his science friend's sketchy time machine to save a girl he just met. And we learn just to what lengths he will go to save his friends and the world. Seriously, how many lazy teenagers do you see stepping up to help save the world at a moment's notice? Oh, the world and time itself. Okay, besides them. Another fun thing is that some of Chrono's actions are choice-driven, but it doesn't take away from his overall character. At the beginning of the game, your actions at the fair affect a trial later on, but it detracts from Chrono being a bit of an impulsive teen. And of course, we have Chrono Trigger's multiple endings, which I guess do boil down to when you want to fight Lavos. But I think the choice of when do we want to risk our lives against a world-eating, time-manipulating alien parasite really adds personality to people. Chrono's most impactful moment is when he sacrifices himself to save his friends from Lavos. Not only is this an impactful scene where the protagonist effing dies, but you see the reactions of his friends to his passing. It shows the influence he has on people despite his lack of words, to the point where your party members will team up with a former enemy and scale a brutal mountain just to save him. Chrono can be considered one of the original expressive silent protags, and a great example of how one of these characters impacts the world they're in. I wouldn't call him the original silent protag though. Got a couple of others who might fit that bill.
Each your own, as they say. Anyway, next, number 8. Here we go!
Yep, it goes without saying that Mario is the precursor to the great silent protags of today. The cheerful and courageous Red Plumber is as malleable as he is versatile. Silent hero or not, he has seen many different takes all across media. Some are well and good, some debatable. In the case of the former, I'd argue there are 2 game series that did him the most justice: Legend of the Seven Stars and the Mario & Luigi series. In Mario RPG, our hero is the center of the game's most recurring joke: reenactments. Mario has a hilarious way of demonstrating exposition, from restricted yet over-the-top motions to transforming into different characters just like that. Yeah, we all had that phase where we main spy a certain way. And on top of that, there's just something cathartic about how violent he can be sometimes. He tried to throw hands with a 7-year-old, for crying out loud. The amount of slapstick and pride makes him one of the most enjoyable characters in the game. It says a lot when the protagonist people usually don't pay attention to turns out to be more expressive and dynamic than the fan-favorite ally whose dialogue is 90% exposition. You know, a lot of people just follow the notion of Mario being this abusive brother who doesn't care about Luigi at all. Well, those people clearly haven't had a lick of the Mario and Luigi games. Or they do, and they just conveniently let it slip by. Mario's chemistry with Luigi here is simple, but very effective. Even if all they say is, "a talking tomato," and "a tomato throws a red barrel," we see just how much the two look out for each other. From the gestures in each bro's attack to saving each other when it counts. Plus, Mario's the one who came up with the idea to disguise Luigi as Peach in Superstar Saga, and he even sticks up for his bro against that mean old Stargate. Yeah, where was that in your masterpiece of a theory, Matt Pat? Heck, if Dream Team reveals that Luigi has nothing but positive thoughts about Mario, it further shows how genuine their chemistry is and how much Mario's friendly stalwartness really means to his bro. And to rub salt in the open wound, brothership highlights just how much losing Luigi hurts Mario. The guy started hallucinating his little bro.
Quit telling everyone I'm dead!
Sometimes I can still hear his voice!
Mario isn't as story-heavy as every other protagonist on this list, but that doesn't devalue how charming and entertaining he can be if given the effort to really express himself. Not everyone who makes Mario games shares that level of love and passion for the character, but for those who do, bless their hearts.
Huh. And you know, I thought that wouldn't count. I guess sounds do count. Oh well. But hey, glad Mario made the list. Next. So far, good. So good. Next.
By now, who doesn't know about the armored vixen in the Metroid series?
Samus
Aran, bounty hunter, galaxy protector, and one of the pioneers of video game heroines. Throughout the game, Samus rarely, if ever, speaks a single word. For the most part, the only real dialogue we get from Samus is her various grunts and death sounds in game. Part of this is because she's out in the field with no one to talk to. Even when Adam phones in with the usual "any objections, lady," she doesn't respond back because she doesn't need words. Until she does. Usually the most we see her quote-unquote talking is when she's delivering internal monologues. The first time we see her actually speak is near the end of Metroid Fusion, where she's arguing with the computer. The first time we hear her voice outside of Smash is Other M, but
so, we don't talk about Other M.
Other M. The only thing weaker than her characterization is her line delivery in the cutscenes.
The thumbs up sign had been used by the Galactic Federation for ages.
Riveting!
And then came Metroid Dread, the true return to form of the franchise. Throughout the entire game, she has two lines of dialogue in total. And the moment we hear them both, we are instantly floored. First, when she's talking to Quiet Robe, aka Exposition Burb. He gives her the breakdown on Ravenbeak, and her only response? It's short, it's badass, and it's spoken in Chozo, the language of the ones who took her in when she had no one. It's the only full sentence she speaks in the entire game, and she embraced her heritage. And the other piece of dialogue? The most savage and emotionally satisfying scene in the whole franchise. Other than those two gripping moments, Samus remains as mute as ever, allowing us to really soak in the dread as the game's tone tries to convey. The brief moments we hear Samus speak really showcase what kind of hero she is. The monologues get a slight pass since they're internal, and let's face it, we need a little exposition so we can grasp what the heck is going on. When she opens her mouth in-game, she sticks strictly to business, keeping it simple and to the point if she can help it. She's actually a pretty introspective woman, able to be expressive without uttering a word and letting her actions and the world around her do the talking. Some might debate if she really qualifies as a silent protagonist, but I say her actions over words more than justifies her spot on the list. Any objections, ladies?
Nope.
Oh, other M ruined that line too for me, dang it!
Shut up. Number 6.
Oh look, another RPG protag,
Who we got
from
this
a
time?
game that we just talked about on my last countdown. Am I that repetitive? Anyway, hey look, we're talking about Sunny / Omori. When you first put up the game, we play as the titular gothic anime teenager as we roam throughout white space. We meet up with our friends, and our best friend Basil shows us his photo album. But then he sees a particular picture that deeply unsettles him. Afterward, we must use the knife in our pockets to snap us out of white space where Sunny is properly introduced to us. Those of you who have played the game will know that Omori is actually an alternate personality conjured up by Sunny as a result of him disassociating himself from the reality of his older sister Mari's death. At this point, I can already hear the comments saying, "But Josh, Sunny is expressionless all throughout the game. How could he place this high?" To which I say, yes, he is expressionless. And that's the point. Sunny infers depression, numbness, lifelessness, and emptiness, all as a result of his inner turmoil. He has completely disconnected himself from the world around him, blaming himself for his sister's death and just sinking deep into unforgiveness towards himself. Read the dialogue that his blank space counterpart says to us in the final boss fight. Sunny is suffering in silence, refusing to make the truth known to his friends, despite the fact that his best friend Basil was there to witness everything. The only bit of dialogue we ever get from Sunny, if you make the right choices, is in the good ending, where he walks into Basil's hospital room and says to his friends, "I have something to tell you." This is all Sunny ever says in the entirety of the game, showing that he's been staying silent about how much his guilt has been hurting him for years. Also, look at the text that Omori has in white space. Mock, sad poem, painful truth, shun, guard. All of these relate to negative emotions and serve as a representation of Omori's real-world counterpart's own inner suffering. He also has a text that uses knife and, I think you can connect the dots.
Yep.
With Omori being a psychological horror, it only makes sense that the most expression we get from Sunny is in his own mind. His outward expression is only a deadpan stare, but what he's inferring is a cry for help, an end to the torment, a desire to undo his fatal mistake. But he never can. The best case scenario for him is to forgive himself and tell his friends the truth. Several fan-made animations have been made of this where Sunny is at his most vocal and most emotional, dreading the reaction of his peers. Each animation has varying reactions to this news, but I think it's best left up to the interpretation of the player, just like Sunny's thoughts as a silent protagonist. Though you have to wonder, after playing through everything Sunny concocted in white space, you think he grows up to be a game developer?
Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
With graphics getting more realistic, it's getting harder to make the old guard of silent protagonists. Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii even joked that if you make characters who are silent and just stand there, they look like an idiot. Someone played Gen 6 and 7. It makes me wonder how a company would evolve a JRPG silent protagonist over 40 years. Well, we do get that with good old Ys and its protag, Adol Christin. Many may not have heard the name of Adol Christin, but this redheaded adventurer and his wanderlust have been captivating gamers for almost 40 years.
You're kidding me.
Nope.
In that time, we've had 10 or so games chronicling his journey, based on in-universe books he wrote on the many adventures he had. Since the games are technically Adol's books, we experience each game through his eyes, being the player's avatar in those adventures. Even with this, we still learn a lot about Adol through NPC dialogue and flashbacks. He was originally from a mountain village where he learned the sword from his father and learned of the outside world from traveling merchants. His curiosity from these stories was so great that he left his home at 16 to travel the world, eventually shipwrecking on the island of Asteria because he wanted to see what would happen if he went into the giant storm wall surrounding it. This leads to a whole franchise of shipwrecks, being at the right place at the wrong time, having every heroine fall in love with you, losing all your equipment between games, and not going in a year without fighting some sort of godlike being. As for personality, Adol wears his heart on his sleeve. He will help anyone at a moment's notice and will light up whenever a local legend or ancient ruin is brought up. And the sadness that comes from not being able to explore because he needs to save the world. Up through E7, he interacts with the world through his actions and reactions from friends. In Memories of Celceta, he gains minor dialogue options, showcasing some of the personality I mentioned earlier. This continued into E's 8, 9, and 10, where he also became much more expressive to match the current technology. However, this also added some voice acting where he will say some lines during battle or during important moments in E's 10. Outside of Nintendo characters, Adol is one of the oldest silent protagonists and probably the oldest recurring one in JRPGs. Seeing his growth and development throughout these games and the impact he's made, not only in this world, but in the genre itself, it's just insane. Makes me curious how his adventures continue before they end at the North Pole. Fun fact, his English VA is Bryce Pappenbrook. Getting someone who's known for playing a sword-wielding harem protagonist to play one of the OGs of the genre is crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of ironic. Number 4. Oh, Kirby.
Come on, we didn't spend 3 minutes on Kirby characters gushing about how incredible the pink puffball is and not put him this high on the list. He stands with Mario as one of the big two of Nintendo's all-star cast of heroes, and boy did he go through a lot to defend that spot. There's something so infinitely charming about this tiny, non-speaking creature just smiling away while steamrolling everything in his path. But he's no psychopath, mind you. He is Dreamland's hero for a reason, going from thwarting a greedy king and saving everyone's meals to having WWE throwdowns with Gygas's classmates. And on top of that, he shows genuine moments of kindness too. He's a good father figure, a supportive and trusting friend, and he even shows mercy to those who deserve it. It says a lot that Kirby is so pure-hearted that even Dark Mind couldn't corrupt him. Nope. Even Shadow Kirby is so nice, he gives you items and abilities throughout all of Amazing Mirror.
Why do I fix everything I touch?
When you get down to it, Kirby is kind of Nintendo's Superman. His personality is more childlike, but he still upholds a lot of the same noble values while muscling all that planet-busting energy. On top of that hilarious dichotomy, he's a character worth all the love and respect he's garnered in his lifetime. And he did all of this with his only speaking words being hi and Poyo. Kirby remained one of Nintendo's most consistent and welcoming protagonists. Really, all we could ask from him is to keep shining a light on our dim lives by being the explosive, inspirational puffball that he's always been.
True that. Yeah, true. I think the day that Kirby gets mad, you run for the hills. Or at least loses that smile. Yikes, end of the world. Just saying. You gotta be pretty scummy to make Kirby sad. Like, I'm just saying. Anyway. Number 3, coming up. Just stretching. Oh, hey, Hollow Knight.
In wilds beyond, they speak your name with reverence and regret, for none could tame our savage souls. Yet you the challenge met under palest watch. You taught, we changed, base instincts were redeemed, a world you gave to bug and beast, as they had never dreamed.
The teacher.
Oh, Hollow Knight, a perfect blend of loneliness, darkness, beauty, and unadulterated masochism wrapped in ribbon and tied with a bow. With bugs! A prince above all other bugs, the being known as the titular Hollow Knight, or Pure Vessel, was a child of the Pale King that succeeded in containing the radiance due to its mindless, susceptible, voiceless, and, well, hollow nature. Succeeded, that is, after hundreds of thousands of failed attempts and murdered bug children. You play as this lovable little critter simply known as the Knight. who was also quite voiceless and void.
It's just a baby.
Through a series of memories, battles, and exchanges with your badass sister Hornet, it's revealed that the Knight is another child of the Void and the Pale King. Many silent protagonists retain their speechlessness because they're meant to be a self-insert, or overall more simplified character in order to relate and appeal to the masses. The Knight is not meant to be
I don't
like
let commentators
the
be able
player.
to have their own
As a matter
dialogue.
of fact, he's
Not they
only
do.
meant to relate to the other husks, except, living to tell the tale. Except he can't tell it because he's
No.
silent. Point blank, this character is designed to be silent. The story revolves around his silence and reveres those in hollowness silent enough to make room in their darkness-ridden body for discount Volcarona. If the Knight spoke, it would become a failed husk. If it so much as uttered a word, it would not be able to contain the radiance after it bled from the Hollow Knight. One single solitary word, and it would become an infected menace and probably explode on impact. Right, the Hollow Knight guy. He was the ideal being to contain the infection until you, the Knight, came around. Assuming you play to a particular ending, now it is you who contains the parasitic light. You have surpassed the pure vessel as the ideal, voiceless, mindless husk so empty that it will restrain the enemy. So empty, so hollow. Don't you love a title that shifts meaning as you go through a game?
Pretty much.
Honestly, the Knight, now deemed quite hollow, is the perfect silent protagonist from a functional story and world-building perspective. Why is it scratching the top 3 and not triumphing the entire list? Due to the Knight's stagnant emptiness that warrants it as the perfect vessel, there's not a whole lot to the character. Go on, tell me about the Knight besides the fact that he's the protag, is a Prince of Hollowness, and eventually contains the infection.
You got me.
Yeah. Now,
Fair
adding
point.
much more to the Knight's lore would annihilate what makes it such a strong silent hero and probably wreck the plot of the game. But the top 2 just have a little more substance, and in a way that fits their own stories just as well. Maybe they'll explode from being too interesting too.
We'll see. Anyway, next up, number 2.
Being silent has its perks. Oftentimes when a silent protagonist doesn't talk, it really lets their actions speak all the louder. And when your actions are loud enough, they can become almost
I think.
symbolic, legendary, and you become an icon of courage. Of course,
This had to be
Link's here. The hero of legend, bearer of the Triforce of Courage, and local dork in about half of his games. But the interesting thing about Link is, reincarnation aside, they're all technically different people. Every Link has his quirks, his own unique background and hobbies, and some of them have hiccups about dedicating themselves to the whole hero thing. But which Link
you blame him?
suits our purposes here? Which is the Link that most embodies the silent hero archetype? Well, let's journey on over to the distant future in
Breath of the
whatever timeline Breath of the Wild takes place in, and look at the hero of the wild. By the time we've met this
true.
Link, he's already well established as Zelda's personal knight, and the flashbacks we get show him laying down his life for her time and time again. But once Hyrule falls into chaos, he's gravely injured and put into stasis for the next 100 years. Now Link's a fish out of water with a case of amnesia, but no less committed to his duty. Through the memories you can find, you're shown Link's personality and demeanor, and even without words, you get a sense of what he's all about. His determination to protect those he cares about is what stands out the most in these. During Hyrule's fall, even when he's facing down the apocalypse, barely clinging to life, he's still trying to protect Zelda with his dying breath. Zelda even gives us an answer as to why he's so silent all the time. It's his sense of duty. Link bottles everything up because he feels he has to. Because he's so laser focused on protecting Hyrule, he has to put his personal feelings aside. Jeez, this poor boy needs a break. The hero of the
not to
wild
mention,
is
like,
the
tears that,
culmination of
you know?
everything Link has symbolized over the years. He takes cues from a lot of his predecessors, mixing them into a character that feels so much more like a complete person than any of the heroes of the past. He's taken on their legacy, and by Hylia, does he carry it on with all his courage.
Alright, time for the honorable mentions. Let's check it out.
Isaac Clarke, Dead Space
Clarke.
1. He's silent because it helps cope with...
This.
Chris, Deltarune. Toby Fox asks the real questions like, what if the silent protagonist didn't like you controlling them? Cube, Live Alive. He just wants to help. Astrobot. I really hope we see more of this goofy little guy.
Uh-oh.
Ori in the Blind Forest.
Ori.
Aw, he's so silently marketable.
Harsh but accurate in a way for haven't played that one yet, but anyway, number 1.
Of all the forces in the universe, there is one that renders even the
Doom guy.
unholiest of beasts weak in the knees. A mortal that storms the gates of hell itself, gunning down any entity foolish enough to stand in his way. He speaks not a word, but once you see him coming, you know he is not trapped with us. We're trapped with him.
Yep. The Doom Slayer. Let's go.
The motherfucking Doom Guy. The nameless space marine dedicated to stomping out demon butt and chewing bubblegum, and he don't need
be
no
like a
stinking
menace.
bubblegum. Given that we're mostly playing from his
What can I
POV,
say?
we don't
Huh.
get to see what's behind those testosterone-ridden eyes, and yet you get most of his personality from just his arms. There is not a single atom of chill to be found in his body. He is laser focused on the inevitable bloodshed and the way he takes down everything in his path like it's a symphony. If my little opening monologue didn't make it clear, all the demons are scared shitless of him as he stone cold mows through them without a word. And yet, he has a small
works.
quirky side too. He has a freaking adorable interaction with the toys he finds on the way, and if he falls to his death, he just gives a bad thumbs up because even in death, he remains pure awesome. Now, all that makes him cool in his own right, but what makes him the best silent protagonist? As revealed in a flashback during Doom Eternal, there was a time when he could speak perfectly fine. But this was before he became the unstoppable juggernaut we know today. Once he armored up, he took a vow of silence so he could properly focus on the task at hand. And he's kept that silence going ever since. Except for one singular moment. When he confronts the Dark Lord of the Infernal Realm, basically the overarching baddie of the whole franchise, the Evil One asks if he has any last words before he kills him. And with his helmet removed, all the Doom Guy can say is...
Oh!
one single
no.
solitary word. And he saved it for the big bad before putting him down for good. He deliberately keeps his mouth shut to paint himself as the ultimate symbol of fear, and it works. No mercy, no distractions, just an endless barrage of anger with a few fun, quirky moments. It says so much about him while he says so little, and that alone earns him the crown for silent protagonists. I'm Josh Scorcher, and since we managed to fix the sound after the previous countdown, let's see what else there is to fix, shall we?
Games that need fixing? I don't know. Curious where that goes, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.